I'm so sorry to keep everybody moving on a very important subject, but we have another two panels, so thank you to all three of you for your contributions this morning. We're now moving on to our second panel, where we'll be talking about non-domestic customers, so businesses, public services and others. And we're welcoming Tina McKenzie, the National Vice Chair and Chair of Policy and Advocacy for the Federation of Small Businesses, Stephen Phipson, who's the Chief Executive for Meek UK, and Kate Nichols, the Chief Executive of UKHospitality.
That's my bill at home. That's my bill for our house. And they're offering me the one for me sandwiches.
Thank you, and good morning to all of you. So just to kick us off, it would be useful to get your individual perspectives, specifically the implications of high energy bills for businesses and what you're seeing in terms of companies going bust as a consequence of having to make different decisions, and if at all possible trying to distinguish that from other economic factors, if that is at all possible, just so we can try to really focus in on the energy aspects. Kate Nichols first, please.
Well, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for inviting me here today to give evidence to you. I think it is incredibly difficult to separate out those energy challenges from the wider economic challenges that we've got across the hospitality sector, but I will do my very best to do so because I think there is some emerging evidence of what you're seeing. Obviously, we're facing into quite a perfect storm. You've got long economic COVID affecting the sector with high debt levels. You've had no real time for recovery to be building back cash reserves, and you've got half of our members saying they have no cash reserves and a third of them that are still not trading profitably over the course of this year. So it is quite difficult to dissociate. What we have seen, however, is a marked change in the role that energy plays in the business model for hospitality and the increasing significance in terms of business viability going forward. So pre-pandemic, if you looked across the hospitality sector at an individual outlet level, energy costs were typically around 4 to 6% of turnover, higher in some of those high energy usages, particularly around hotels. They've now become 15 to 17% of turnover at an outlet level. It's gone from being the fourth largest cost centre to the second, more than rent and rates combined, and the only bigger cost that you've got before you open your doors is your staffing. And that's why it's become such a big, significant factor in business viability decisions in seeing whether you're a going concern, because before you meet any of your other costs, you've got to meet those high energy bills and be able to cover them and know that when you open on a Monday, a wet Monday in January in the northeast where I come from, you've got to be able to cover roughly about £800 to £900 before you turn a penny profit to make the decision as to whether it's worth opening. And what we have therefore seen is quite a different trend over the course of the last year in business failures in the sector. We had a contraction of about 6% across the sector as a whole. 5,000 businesses closed for good over the course of 2022. And about 3/4 of them were in the last quarter of the year. That's highly unusual. We normally have our business failures coming at the start of the year, not in the third and fourth quarter. People usually hang on to trade their way through Christmas and get some cash in the tank. We're not seeing that, and as I say, 3/4 of those business failures were happening September, October, November, December, and one of the largest factors that was talked about in those business failures, particularly amongst the independents, was energy costs. They just weren't able to manage to cover those costs and remain sustainable and viable. So the inflationary environment, the cost of doing business, yes, that is all a factor. The discretionary spend downturn, the rail and travel disruption, we are facing into that perfect storm, but energy is a more significant factor in business failure in our sector than it has ever been in the 30 years I've worked in the industry.
Thank you. Stephen Phipson.